Hi, welcome back to the shop, and welcome to part 3 of the Sidewinder struggle. The struggle continues. Today we are going to fix the firmware issue that I had last week with the probe not coming down quite right. So I have my computer up here, I've got VS Code open. I'm going to bring in the firmware and show you exactly what I'm going to do to fix it. I think I know what's wrong, so this should be pretty quick. So to introduce myself, I'm Matthew, your host. Behind the camera, pressing buttons, is my producer wife. Say hello.
Hello.
Hello. And so let's get into it now, shall we? So we're in VS Code right now, and this is, if you're not familiar with how to do the firmware on these, this is just a program that helps you edit and change and compile the firmware for these printers, and it works with several other types of firmwares and all that kind of stuff. So just gonna get right into it here. Open folder, go to where I have it hidden very, very deep in here. Let's see, where am I?
Looks like we had somebody from the UK who dropped by who said they can't be with our live stream because they have to work tomorrow, but they said hello.
Oh.
And we have Ray and Andre who say, or Andrea, sorry, who say hello.
Hello, Andrea and Ray. Yes? Okay. All right, so here we are. Oh, I opened the wrong folder. Close folder. Open folder. Where was it? Right here. Marlin source. Select folder. Okay.
Oh, Andrea's from Italy.
Italy. That name sounded familiar. I think they have responded to some of the Facebook posts and stuff. So appreciate you coming by. I know it's, what time is it? Is it late in Italy right now? Are they 9?
Early?
9 hours?
Early, late?
They're ahead 8 or 9 hours or something like that. All right, so we're gonna come in here, and it is gonna be in configuration.h, and it's Z probe options.
Christopher says hello.
Hello, Christopher. Z options, there we go. So let's see, Z probe uses Z min in stop pin.
Oof, it's 11:35 p.m. in Italy.
Oof. Define use probe for Z homing. Yeah, that was not correct. All right.
Andrea says, yes, you helped quite a bit with the Hemera XS.
Oh, excellent. Oh, you're the one that asked for that. Okay, that's making sense now. Hopefully that's working out for you. So yeah, I had the wrong thing selected for how this probe works, and so Z-min probe uses Z-min in stop pin. We don't want to use that, so we'll comment that out. And then I brought up use or define use probe for Z homing, and then the actual pin that the probe wire goes into. So I uncommented that, and then the pin for the SKR 1.4 and 1.4 turbo, I have this memorized, is P0_10. And that is the actual pin identifier. If you go to the wiring schematic or the pin schematic that you get from Big Tree Tech's GitHub, or their website has it, it'll show it on there. And I believe that is it. That should be everything.
We have somebody joining us from Turkey. They say hello.
Oh, how did was it host? I forgot how to say hello in Turkish. Man, that's bad. Well, it's been 10 years. So, hello, my friend from Turkey. I used to know some Turkish. I lived there for a short while, but that was 10 years ago. All right, we're good. We're saved. So we'll go over to Auto Build Marlin, show the panel, and build. And now the computer does wizard magic things. This is
we have Monty from Washington State.
Monty
local.
From Washington State. Oh, a local boy. Well, welcome. Welcome to Washington. Welcome to a stream.
From Washington
welcome
to
from
Washington.
Yeah, welcome from Washington to, I like it. Yeah. So this compiling of the firmware takes a minute or so, depending on how fast your computer is. And it takes all the information and compiles it up into one binary file. All right, we're good. Copy that binary file over to my micro SD card. And that is that. I think that is correct. So I'm going to close this down, go get the printer, and get that updated. So hang out for just a minute for this short intermission. All right, welcome back. Sorry for that. That was a little longer than I expected. Had a few small technical difficulties, but got the printer here, got my SD card. Forgot that. All right, so we just gotta stick this in, plug her in, and turn it on, and it should update. Where is the, I go around this way to see the SD slot. All right, that is in. I'm telling you, we're close here. We are close. And this takes, I don't know, 10 seconds to do its upload. As soon as the screen tells me that it's connected, it's good to go.
Christopher says, any chance we can see a close-up of your SKR 1.4 turbo with wire locations?
Yeah, that's no problem at all. Here, that's done updating.
And asked Andrea if they replaced the connections on their Chimera for the EP3D extruder breakout board, or did you make SW adapters? That was directed at somebody else, but just...
Oh, okay. So, close-up of how it is wired. You could zoom in on that camera. Yeah, let's, this might be difficult. Light might be an issue, so right here.
There we go.
There we go.
Struggling today, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
You're good.
So hopefully that explains it a little bit.
Right where?
There we go. And if you need, I could take a high resolution picture and label what each wire is and where they go on the board to make it easier, like a block schematic or block diagram, or I forget what to call it. So, but yeah, that's it. Everything goes basically in the same spot as the old board. It's not that difficult. So, all right. Come on back. Okay. We are back. I need to stick this cutting thing down. Come on. All right, now we attempt to home it. Plug back in, turn it back on. Wait for the screen to connect. There we go. All that error is, it says failed to enable bed leveling. Yeah. On the screen here it says failed to enable bed leveling. That all that means is that it doesn't have a saved mesh for the surface mapping. It's not like a detrimental error. Once you get the surface map done or the bed leveling done, it will save that to the EEPROM and everything will be just fine. So click OK, and first let's see if she homes. Move. Home. Why is that going backwards? Why is that going backwards? Why is that going backwards? That shouldn't be going backwards. That shouldn't be going backwards. It went the right direction last time. Sorry about the crashing noises. Our cat is jumping around. Why is that going backwards? This is the same firmware. The only thing that changed was the probing. Movement. Move. 10 millimeters. X. Oh, why is it backwards? That's not supposed to be that way. I think I could reverse it from the screen. I don't know what camera I'm on here. Oh, hi. Are you zoomed in on the screen?
Sort of. You can kind of see that. Like, the back of your head's lovely.
Okay. Let's see. Settings. Machine. Custom? Let's see. No, it's not going to be in there. Settings. I know there might be a way to change this in here.
Andrea says they got an X2, so unfortunately did not go for the EP3D breakout board because it is my understanding the board is different on the X2. They replaced some connectors on the BL Touch to ABL fans, stuck the Hemera connector for the thermistor in, it fits, and made a stubby adapter for the heater cartridge. We've got great news for you because the X2 boards are currently being worked on.
Yes, we're building X2 specific boards. So if in the future, why is it? I might need to bring the laptop back out to fix this. Steps per millimeter, that doesn't have direction. I vaguely remember being able to switch the stepper direction from here, but apparently that is not a thing. Let's hold on, menu settings. Terminal M502. Make sure the EEPROM's reset. M500. M500. Settings stored. There we go. Movement. Move. Still backwards. Okay, I gotta get back in the firmware and fix that. So we don't need to switch to the laptop. I'll just grab it real quick. I'll set this aside. I don't know how that got switched, but We'll bring this on back. Ooh, okay. Actually, if you want, I could plug it in. And does everybody want to see where I'm going to find this? Or how you switch the direction in the firmware?
You can give me one more thing to try to figure out today. It's all right, no big deal.
What's going on over there?
Are you plugging it in?
Yeah, I could do that. Yeah. Grab the cord for it. I really thought I had it. That's weird because all those moved the right direction last week. I don't know what changed. All right, back to VS Code here. Let me know when you're back. Okay. That's going to be in configuration.h, and I want to say it's going to be, we'll just look up dir for direction. There's invert stepper directions. Oh, so
Ray's interested in seeing how you're fixing it.
Yeah. Actually, I'm curious, is the Y reversed as well? Before I get any further, I want to check that. So Y minus. No, yeah, the Y is reversed as well. Yeah, it should be Y plus, and that should be Y minus. So, okay. So in configuration .h, look for define, invert, X dir and Y dir. That's just the directionality. So right now they're set to false. We'll just change these both to true. And this. And you know what? While we're at it, let's check Z. I don't know what happened here. So Z minus. That's correct. Okay. Save that. Go back to here. Clean. Shut that off. Build. And we play the waiting game again. And that is weird that last week it worked. And this week it didn't. Makes me wonder if I had put the wrong firmware on it last time. I don't know.
We're about to get some crashes happening.
Our cat might knock some stuff off a shelf. Sorry for any loud noises. We're doing this on battery power, so the...
Oh, we have Drew says, hello from lovely Alberta, Canada. My Honda Civic was slow to get here today.
Oh, goodness. Hello, Drew. We actually... You want to tell him about the board?
Oh, I'll let you. Go for it.
All right, so we're still not quite done with the X2 boards, but you had expressed extreme interest in them. So if you want, we could get one together for you and you could be a beta tester for it. From the few that I've sent out already to people a couple months ago, they said it's working fine, but it doesn't hurt to have more people testing it because it's probably going to be at least another month or so till we're done getting them together. Unfortunately, it's a slow process and time is limited. So let us know and we can get you set up. Copy that.
Send us an email if you're interested.
Yeah, send us an email at etherealproject3d@gmail.com or directly like from my website. You can go and email me from the website.
He says, take my money.
Shut up and take my money, right? Paste. If you didn't just see what I did there, when the firmware loads, when the board successfully takes it, it will change the extension of the file to .cur, and that means that's all it is saying, yes, I've accepted the firmware and it loaded successfully. So you have to delete that to do this process again. So we're back there. Let's pull that out and try again.
While you are at that.
Uh-huh. Uh-oh. Almost dropped it in there.
We have Mr. Jasper, who says, hey folks, from Ireland, can you give a brief rundown of the specs of that machine?
From Ireland. So this it's a Sidewinder X1 in spirit. It originally came with an MKS Gen L version 1 8-bit board with an MKS TFT 28 touchscreen and TMC 2100 stepper drivers. And I've modified it, but the build volume is 300 millimeters in the X and Y and 400 millimeters in the Z. It originally came with a direct drive Titan clone extruder, and I have put an SKR 1.4 turbo with the Big Tree Tech screen, the TFT 35 V3. Turn that on, get it updating. Switch it out to a Hemera with a Volcano hot end, installed a BL Touch, switched over the Z-axis motion system to linear rails and 1204 ball screws to give a little bit more resolution in the Z-axis. Obviously, I'm not printing any thinner layers in like 0.15, but it's a smoother, it's a better setup than the original plastic roller wheels, and part of that is because the frame on this isn't quite right. The uprights are tapered at the top, so it had issues with binding and stuff. So this was my fix for that, and I have more stuff I'm going to do in the future on it. So hopefully that explains it. Okay, we are there. Menu, movement, move. Okay, X plus. Tell it to go further than. Hey, there we go.
And Drew would like to know what the issue was with the probe from last week.
So I believe the issue was the way the probe options were set up. I can go back real quick and show you. It's just right here.
1 second.
That was right around, what, 1200 or so. Line 1200. Are we there? Okay. Here I had define min probe uses Z-min in-stop enabled, and that means that the in-stop probe connection is what it was looking for. And I have on this SKR board, it has a specific probe connector, and so you just tell it to use probe pin, and then you define what pin you want. So I just had the wrong connection on the hardware side set up in here. That's all it was. So and I suspected that like last week, the night after it failed, I was like, oh, I know what's wrong. I bet you I did that. So that is all. So that's good. Let's see if it actually works now. But home all. That's better. No grinding. Okay, that works.
Drew says, sorry, they were late. Grade 3 math was killing their kid today.
Oh, no.
The way they do math these days, I'm pretty sure I'd have a hard time with grade 3 math.
Right. Okay, so the probe worked. One thing I did is I tested it with my hand before letting it possibly crash into the build plate, because while it probably wouldn't damage anything, it's never good to just let these things slam and crash into each and mechanically bind it. You know, not the greatest for them. All right, so that is good. We are going to, what time is it? 2:57. Should we do the new springs?
This is your show.
This is my show. I mean,
unless you're asking the audience, in which case you're gonna have to wait a minute for you to catch up.
Right. Where did I put those? Where did I put those? Aha! So I could put this away now, huh? We're on.
Go.
Okay. We're still learning the process here, and having all these extra buttons to be able to press the switch around, it's a learning process. That is put away.
Oh, thought you were coming back for good. We're not.
Sorry. Okay, so I have these. I bought some silicone. Sorry about the loud package.
Christopher says sure to new springs.
Yes, so the silicone replacements. I've heard from a lot of people that these work really good. So we're gonna give it a try, and I'm gonna sit down because my hips are hurting. Don't ever get old, everyone. So let's switch those around real quick. This should be pretty simple. Let's move this up manually if I can. Okay.
You got something attached in the back there?
The cord?
No.
What? Oh, this?
No, you're dragging your... It's all good.
Dragging tools?
You'll figure it out later.
Yeah, I'll figure it out later. Okay. So just unscrew the...
Christopher bought the same silicone springs.
Springs,
I'm
right.
curious how they work for you.
We'll see. This thing doesn't really have a problem with losing its corner level. If I move it, it might jostle a little bit. So
Current stream is a little bit rate is lower than recommended. So if you're watching this after the fact and our audio kind of lags,
really, what's it
we
saying?
apologize.
What's the bit rate show on the?
3009.
Yeah, it should be like 6.
It recommends 4500.
That's close enough. Well, it should show you on the preview screen on your right there, the bit rate, the upstream bit rate. Okay. Ooh, I haven't had this thing off in a minute. Let's pop these springs out of here.
Now it's great. Weird. We just had like a quick blip of terrible internet.
Which directions do these go? I guess we'll go like that. Sure.
Do you want to...
Where do you need me to move this? There, okay. All right, so perfect. I pulled out the old springs and we'll put these in. And I think it's got one side that's got kind of an open end, like a countersunk end, and the other side is just not. I don't know which way they would technically have to go. So we're just gonna YOLO it. Well, they're a snug fit.
Andrea says they just put the same silicone replacements on their X2 today. It looks like they're working pretty well so far, but they're notably shorter than the springs.
So that's okay, because having the BL Touch probe that acts as the actual end stop for the Z axis, that acts as the end stop for the Z axis. So it really doesn't matter where you put the bed. Wherever it probes to for its homing, it sets that as 0. So if you move it up a couple centimeters, that is now 0, and the printer doesn't know the wiser. Now, one thing is if it does lower the bed a little bit, you could get a few extra millimeters of Z of max build volume at, you know, beyond 400. At that point, you might just want to get a bigger printer. So I'm not going to really mess with that. I'm just going to do this. And vice versa, if you end up changing, if you have, you know, put linear rails on it, it lifts everything up a couple centimeters, then you've lost that build volume at the top. And at that point, you would definitely want to change it in your, at least in your slicer, how much effective vertical build volume you have, just to prevent it crashing if you do print things that are relatively tall, maxing out the height of your build volume. These things are a snug fit. That is a good thing, though. That's all 4. Okay, cool. I have extras. Actually, I'll just put those there. And we will... What was this on there? I had that like that. All right. I'm sure the back of my head looks lovely again. Hey, okay. Oh, yeah. This is going to be a challenge getting these on like that. We'll just lift this up and... on top of it. So, and that's one started. So one thing I haven't done is I've not perfectly dialed in the Z offset on this yet. And so one thing to keep in mind when you do, if you do have a printer that doesn't have a BL Touch and you add one and you're adjusting your Z offset, if it is too far, if your negative value is too low, it will continue to have 0 actually be below your build surface. And so if you go like, oh, you do your initial homing, and then you go to level your corners and it smashes the nozzle into the plate every time, even though, okay, I did it perfect, and then you do it again, it's going to do it again because you keep moving the plate down. Because the machine thinks that it is lower in effect. I don't know if that's making sense. So there's a really interesting process I saw to dial it in so you got it perfectly right every time. And then you could change that either to your EEPROM or in your firmware if you have the ability to and the knowledge to edit the firmware. So that's something I got to do on this at some time. I don't think I'll have time to do that today.
So Monty says they had issues with a nut below the bed hitting the heater pad, so you have to be careful with the silicone spacer height. And Drew says the shorter one is for where the bed heater cable connects to some printers, like a CR10S Pro V2, or I believe otherwise known as his Honda.
His Honda. I didn't hear all of that. Sorry.
Monty says, I've had problems with the nut below the bed hitting the heater pad, so you have to be careful with the silicone spacer height.
Okay. What nut? Oh, okay. Those. Yeah, that makes sense. That could definitely smash into it if you're not careful. We'll see what that looks like. It looks like it's going to be close. If anything, spacers could be printed and used. Right, you put them instead of up against the glass on the underside between the silicone little spring and the metal carriage plate.
Drew says the shorter one is for where the bed heater cable connects on some printers like the CR10S Pro V2.
Okay, yeah.
And he also says that he sees the issue. You have the incorrect email on Facebook.
Oh. Huh. I didn't realize that. You can go to my website and go to contact us, and it will send an email from my website, and I'll get it that way.
Why am I trying to log into your Facebook?
Well, because I logged into my Google so you could run the stream. Because I needed my laptop. All right. One thing I'm running into here, which hopefully won't be too much of an issue, is it's hitting my brace here. Ooh. So I won't be able to get those well, let's see. Let's see here. Get that centered up.
You have Ethereal Project 3D.
Oh. Oops.
Thank you for letting us know.
Yes, that is silly me. All right, get those snug down. Now this is going to require a heck of a corner leveling. Or we could really test the ability of the surface map, just have it all at an angle.
Drew says the countersink part for the silicone spacer could be for the nut, maybe.
Possibly. There is no nut on these. The screws on this build plate, I think they're epoxy to the glass. That's what holds them on. Because there's no aluminum under this one. It's just the glass plate and then the heater stuck onto it. So the screws themselves are just glue epoxy to the glass. So there's no nut under there. But that does make sense if you have a well, like on that, there's nuts. Well, no, there's nuts. There's no nuts on that. You could add some. I imagine there are some printers out there that do have nuts that kind of mind out of the gutter. Children could be watching this.
You could get like the ones that people put on the back of their like the ball hitch on their trucks that just sit and dangle while sorry, anyway.
Shame. My God. Wow.
Monty says, I tried printing my own PETG spacers. They melted. I ended up buying taller silicone spacers from Amazon. Works well.
That makes sense. Taller ones would definitely work. We'll see how this goes. I mean, they go in there. They're in place. And I got it, trammed by hand. We'll see. We have our full range of motion here. That's still a little on the... Okay, well, let's get going. I need a piece of paper. I forgot my paper, and I dropped a silicone thing.
There's some paper with art on it right there.
Oh, I like artful paper. That is thick. Actually, you know what? I have a feeler gauge.
Yeah, there's some paper with art on it right here.
This'll work. All right, one thing is that, let's get this reasonably clean. Let me heat that up. I don't want to heat everything up. We could just do a quick and dirty corner level without even heating it up. Menu. I don't know if that camera can see what I'm doing, or should I face this more toward you there?
Yeah, turn it around towards me a little bit.
Okay, and you know what? This cutting mat is really starting to bug me. Moving around, I need to double side sticky tape it down or something. Actually, that works. It just slides too easy on this desk.
And Drew let you know that he sent you an email again, and it looks like we got it. So thank you so much, Drew. We'll respond to that after we're done with the live stream.
Yeah, as soon as we're done, we'll give you a response. Okay, so under movement, leveling, go to the... We're going to start at the back.
You gotta...
Am I...
Something but glare.
Oh, crazy glare? Okay, I'm going to have to...
Almost. A little more. Yeah, that's better.
All right. Then I'm just going to have to lean over here. Everyone gets the lean over view. We're going to start at 0.3. Here we go. Hey. It has found 0. Okay. Let's feeler gauge it up.
Monty says they should mention they're using the Filaments aluminum bed magnetic Flex magnetic sheet and their upgraded heating element.
Okay. So their stack tolerance or spacing with the screws and stuff like that could be a little different than what this is. That's a pretty good setup, I hear, though.
Not as good as that EP3D sheet that I had.
I like the shameless plugging. I like it. So we are way too... So let's see. I'm just going to kind of eyeball this until I can get my Z offsets, much better. Middle. Oh, how far off are we in the middle? Yeah. Go to 0.1.
Drew says he wished they'd make one for the Sidewinder X2.
You know, you could technically make it work if you had some skills with some wiring. You just wouldn't have the X2's new kind of like flat cable instead of having the whip. It's much better. It's better done on the X2, or switch it out for a drag chain. That could work.
Do we have a X2 live stream in the making in the future?
Yes, we do. I have. I thought about switching mine over. Well, no, I wasn't going to do that on this for the chain whip. We could think of something to do with the X2 for a live stream. There's always something. All right, tighten that down. I'm just kind of visually getting a little bit of a gap between them because I want to get my Z offset perfect before I go too far with it, as far as a perfect tram.
Drew says they say it works on the X2, but the heater does not.
Oh, wait, the heater should still be a AC voltage on that. I don't know what they're doing. I don't see why it wouldn't. So we're just going to use that for a quick and dirty corner level. It's not perfect. It's nowhere near perfect, but it's close-ish. And that gives it an opportunity to really test the actual mesh surface mapping. So people call it mesh leveling or auto bed leveling. that's kind of a misnomer. It's in CNC terms, which is what these are, little CNC machines. It's called surface mapping. So what's so funny over there, producer wife?
Oh, well, to start with, someone says hello and greetings from Poland. We're getting good hits from all around the world here.
Nice.
And then Drew bringing in the Clipper talk again. Just Clipperize it.
Just
Clipperize an X2 on Livestream, that is.
That would be, so I'd have to start that Monday morning about 6 a.m. and it would take until the next Monday. I think it'd be a really nice long 7-day straight stream. So I have no idea how to do Clipper. It'd be fun though. Let's get this up out of the way. Okay, let's back. I'm looking at this upside down. Back, menu, heat, preheat, go. We are preheating while I'm at it. Get some filament going here. And we will do a test print. I'm gonna stay like that. I gotta clean this. I got fingerprints all over it. It would help.
He says, unless you know a guy with an X2 profile.
That's fair. That is fair. Nice and clean. So I'm using just some 99% isopropyl alcohol. And it's best to do it while it's still cold, or while it's heating up, just so it doesn't evaporate off before it could actually clean the grease and oil and whatever else you've got on your build surface. So, and one thing with these is that the glass is not a very good conductor of heat compared to aluminum, and so if you run the leveling as soon as it says it's warmed up, it's not fully warmed up, and your corners will end up getting tighter on you because that heat hasn't transferred. That heat hasn't transferred to the corner just yet. So if I want a really accurate surface map, I'll let it preheat for like 5 or 10 minutes so it really heat soaks the glass. Yeah, because it's like we're hot in the middle, cool to touch on the outside basically. It's still heating the bed a little bit. We're there, 60 and 171. So the nice thing about the AC powered heating elements is they heat up quick. Having this be my first printer and then going to eventually getting a printer that runs a 24 volt heated bed, it was like painful waiting for it to heat up. Like, come on, let's go. I don't have all day. But you get used to it, I guess. So hopefully the sound isn't too bad this time around. We did some work on the sound, and with our new setup, there's really no way to monitor the audio until you just see how it sounds afterwards. So where are we here? So while we wait, any questions? Anybody got a question for me during this awkward wait period?
I was gonna say I can turn the whole music back on. And we just lost somebody watching. They're like, no.
Like, no, man. This is
If you talk about that whole music again, I'm gone.
Right. Okay. And we'll call that pretty good. So back movement.
Christopher says you probably mentioned it, but what version of Marlin are you using?
Oh, this is version 2.1.2, the latest. And the reason why I've gone with that is eventually I'm going to start work on calibrating input shaping on this, because it now has that in a newer version of Marlin. I'm working on my own tuning tower testing shape. There's the one you can get on the Clipper website, and actually on the Marlin website, on their GitHub, on their website, where you download the firmware, and it has information about the different features, it actually links you to the Clipper website, or what the Clipper website links to for that STL for the tuning tower. But the way I'm doing the tuning isn't, it's a manual way, but not, it's like kind of half between automatic and manual, because there is no way to use an accelerometer right now to tune it for Marlin like you can in Clipper. I'm hoping in the future they figure that out, because I've been messing with it for a good couple of weeks on my SP5 Core XY 3D printer, and it is a unholy pain in the rear. But I'm working on a way to simplify it, in a way to just punch in some numbers and it spits out numbers for you. And hopefully have a tool on my website that works for people to use.
And follow-up question, are you using the nozzle clean feature?
No. I'm not.
Okay.
So
Monty says, how's the filament change-out fix coming on the X1 for the original controller board?
So that might be an issue with the firmware on the old TFT 28s. So the Artillery switched to a new microcontroller for the new TFT 28s, which has better support for the filament changeout feature, and the old version, I believe, doesn't. So I've got it set up correct in Marlin, but it still gives me trouble. And then I used essentially the same setup on the X2, but on the X2 it has the new TFT and the new version of the firmware that has M600 enabled natively, and it works just fine. So there could still be some workarounds that I got to think of with some custom G code and stuff. So I'm working on it, but I have a feeling it's a limitation of the TFT. So we're gonna go.
And Drew says, what's the weather like where we are? And I'm gonna say the weather in the Pacific Northwest is probably a little warmer than it is in northern Michigan right now.
Oh, way. Said start. Did I not say start? Oh, sorry.
Okay, that went right over your head.
Yeah,
and Drew says,
Northern Michigan, I get it.
What slicer are you using and why?
So I use IdeaMaker predominantly. I've gotten the best results with it as far as print quality goes, and it's got, the layout is just, I don't know, easier to follow for me. It's got features in it that you don't get in Cura, as far as individually setting start and end G code for individual filament profiles, where you're kind of stuck in Cura. You get start and end G code for the printer, but I have not figured out an easy way to set it up profile dependent, where in IdeaMaker you could have start and end G code set up just for the printer, and you could have separate G code set up for each filament profile that you have, which is great for what I'm doing. Its supports are fantastic. It's the best supports I've ever messed with between Prusa Slicer and Cura. I've done a little bit of messing around with Super Slicer. I tried a hacked version of Simplify 3D a long time ago, and I did not like it. It was terrible. There we go. So it's gone through. Say OK and save. All right. Now we need to set a Z offset, which I probably should have done before leveling the corners. Back, offset, go.
Drew says, weather, us too. We're expected to be above 4 degrees Celsius next week.
Above
Slicer,
4 degrees? Why do I have
no
to
Prusa or Super Slicer. I think you'd love Super Slicer.
I did some toying with it, and the interface just seems, like there's a lot of options. Like you could do a lot with Super Slicer, no doubt, but it just seems a little overcomplicated. Some of the options are like, well, what does that mean? And you search for it, and you don't really get a definitive, like, this is what this means. Where in IdeaMaker, there are a few less features about it, but each feature that it does have, if you click on it, it will take you to the IdeaMaker website, and it has a pretty detailed explanation of what that does. So I really like that. How far are we? Oh, we're way off. Yeah. So we're gonna do 0.1. We're gonna go down. Oop. Yeah, so my Z offset is at a negative number way too far. Okay, there we go. We're repping now. Back here. I'll call that good. Next, save. All right, we're back.
Okay, Monty says, follow-up question regarding the filament change issue. If you can't resolve, what options do they have? And easiest and least expensive options, that is.
I would say purchase one of the new version TFT 28s from Artillery. And then, I don't know if they've updated their website with the new firmware that works for it, that is X1 specific. But I will have a few versions of that on my website here, hopefully in the next few weeks as I go through and make the changes I need to make in it for what I do. But Alan from Happy 3D Tie has a download link for what Artillery sent him for that. And it should have M600 like automatically enabled within the touchscreen firmware, and you just got to make sure Marlin is configured for it. So I got to double check and make sure that my Marlin build for the manual mesh leveling is configured for it, and get that updated. So, but we are ready to start printing on this thing.
And regarding the slicer, Drew says they have a really nice built-in calibration menu. I think you dig it for use. It creates G-code and a bunch of other things to test.
Yeah, I saw that. The guy from Teaching Tech had done a video about that a while back, and it looked really, really good. Like, really good. Let's see, movement, extrude.
Monty says if he emails you, would you mind helping him track down that board?
Yeah, I can help you track that down, no problem. So, load. Oh, it's going so mind-meltingly slow. So this is going to take forever to load 100 millimeters into this. There we go. I'm thinking I can increase the loading speed for this. So for anybody wondering, as far as an upgrade path goes, to give you better functionality and better usability as far as configuring everything to do what you want it to do, switching out to like the big tree tech setup is by far the easiest route if you want to have the most, if you're sticking with Marlin, obviously. If you want the most control over your setup. The stock setup is okay. And there's you can get the Big Tree Tech touchscreen firmware to work on the MKS screens, but it's still not the same feature set that these things natively have. So it's just, this is so much better and easier to work with. We're getting there. I have a test file. Where's my thumb drive? My little level test file to make sure it all is leveled and works. We're making a ice cream shop. It's like our kid's little Play-Doh ice cream toy. Come on. There we go. And add it there. Oh man, I haven't cleaned this build plate in a little while until now, so everything's really sticking to it. Update on the build plate. I know someone asked last week and I didn't really get into it. I'm still kind of testing it out, torture testing in it, just to make sure that it's going to be worth the money that people are going to be spending on it in the future. And so far it's doing good. I was a little worried because the PEI coating is a little thinner than what I expected, but it's holding up very well. I've got a few blemishes on it where I had the nozzle smash into it and stay, like I don't know what I was doing. I was distracted, and so the heat from the nozzle actually melted a little hole in the coating. But it's not peeling or bubbling off from that spot. I've used a scraper and stuff on it, and it can be scratched definitely, but it's not like some of the original filament ones where it just like peeled off. It's not doing that, which is nice. So let's plug this on in here. And while we're at it, we are just going to, where are we at? Bed leveling, ABL. We're gonna do this again, just because we've had that bed's had time to really heat up. So, and one thing I've set up in the firmware is high-speed probing, where it just kind of goes from point to point. I did a bunch of different tests between this way and the slow way, and this way isn't any less accurate, and it's considerably faster to do it. So some people like to have this in their start G-code before every print just so they know that it's a good mesh, and this can save a lot of time. And I discovered this while helping a friend with his Trunksy Tron XY, whatever you call it. Yeah, because we had to do like Z-step or auto align, so it has to go through this whole process every time on his printer, and it was so slow. And I discovered this and made it work way faster. So there we go. Okay, print, USB stick, level test, go. Is it going to heat up to 70? Yeah. So it's heating the bed up a little warmer for my test print, but it should rehome and compensate for any bit of thermal expansion the bed has gotten from that extra 10 degrees C. Oh, it seems awfully close. Let's see. How's that? That's okay. So this test print just prints a bunch of squares all around, and you could use it to verify that your nozzle height is correct and that your actual mesh is good. So you can go to baby steps on the screen here, and the X2, I don't remember if the stock, there was something with the stock screen firmware on the X2 where you could do the baby stepping, but it wouldn't save it to the nozzle to probe offset. So if you had your nozzle offset incorrect right off the get, you had to count, okay, I went, what's that? We are way to something. I grabbed on something.
What's your little piece you have along the bottom there?
Yeah,
fan thing or whatever that is.
I think it's printing a little too close, which is fine. But on the X2 firmware, there's no way to save that baby step, so I had to redo it. So you have an option to save the baby step, because it's silly to have baby stepping and not be able to save it. Why? Oh yeah, we're way too close. We're gonna go up. All right. Yeah, it's way too close. It's funny. It's okay. That's why we do this. I think that feeler gauge I use is like 0.08 millimeter. It's a super thin feeler gauge. This is looking better. So this is about what is this, a 9-minute print, 10-minute print, it said in here. So, and that's another thing about ID Maker. Its estimates for print times is way more accurate than with Cura and with Prusa Slicer. I don't know where their secret sauce is on that, but they've nailed that. And it gives me time elapsed and time remaining on the print on this touchscreen, which if I slice in Cura or Prusa Slicer, no matter what I do, it will never give me time remaining. So there's something in ID Maker that makes that feature work, because that's baked into Marlin and in the touchscreen. So we're still a little too low. Let's save that. Which is a really nice feature, because it's like, why can it not tell you how much longer you have left on your print? It's a good piece of information to know. And with ID Maker, it works well with this setup. So obviously on the stock touchscreen on both the X1 and X2, you don't get that. I haven't tried it on the Hornet. The feature's not enabled on the Hornet firmware, on the Marlin firmware for the Hornet. So I have Hornet videos planned in the future for doing firmware stuff. For those of you who may have a Hornet or may want a Hornet. And if you're shopping for an inexpensive printer that just works, the Hornet's not a bad option. That thing works great. Way less touchy, way less issues. Still just a hair too low. And that's the joy of doing this print, because after each one is done, you can look at it and be like, oh, that was way too low or way too high, and you could, you know, baby step away, and it saves it to your nozzle offset.
Andrea says, silly question, is the Big Tree Tech at TFT upgrade feasible for the X2 as well? My stock TFT is kind of wonky with the touchscreen, so it might be a good upgrade if it works. I
do not think that the Big Tree Tech TFT can communicate with the raw, you said X2, right? With the Ruby main board. Except if you went, you could use it in Marlin mode and do it that way, which is an option that a lot of people do as far as with these newer TFTs. Even though you get a really nice touchscreen interface, some people just like using Marlin mode because it works and everyone kind of knows it. Again, I don't believe it's not configured in the stock X2 firmware, so you'd have to set it up in the stock X2 firmware for this to read it in Marlin mode, which I could do some experimenting and get an X2 firmware build that will send Marlin mode information to this screen. So, but it won't, I don't think it'll work in its native touchscreen touch mode. It's the port that it uses to communicate with the Big Tree Tech main boards. I think it's a special Big Tree Tech thing. So.
Drew asks, if one was to print your Sidewinder X2 Hemera mount and fan, what print settings / filament would you recommend?
So I would recommend PLA because you're not worried about any sort of heat or strength issues other than maybe a little rigidity. And PLA, while not being quote unquote as strong as PETG, it is more rigid. So if you want rigid prints, use PLA, where PETG is a little bit more flexible. I'm not saying PETG wouldn't work. It'd work just fine because there's not much going on with it. But there's no reason why you couldn't use PLA and do 0.2 millimeter layer heights and print slower. I print 60 millimeters a second inside shells and 40 outside shells. And on this I have an acceleration at like 400 or 600. I think 400 for when I want to print nice things and 600 when I want to go a little faster. If I want to go really fast, I use the SP5 because I have that at like 1500 for the shells and 2000 or 2500 for everything else, and it prints real nice and real fast. So, oh yeah, that is perfect. Maybe still touch high or touch low. So we'll go up one more. Oh boy. And I don't understand why it prints these squares in this order. I think it has something to do with the way they were drawn in CAD. Because I drew this model in SolidWorks, but it was years ago. So it prints front, left, and then like around to the middle and back and down. It's weird, but it still works. Question though, beyond doing this 3D printer maintenance and work stuff on a live stream, what would you all think about doing live streams of 3D CAD work, mainly SolidWorks, and my process in that, and maybe doing some questions and tutorials in a live stream format for it? Because that would be a lot of fun for me, and it would hopefully get the word out to people that SolidWorks is a viable option, and in my opinion, way better than Fusion 360.
Drew says back to that Sidewinder mount and fan duct question. I was looking for more layer height infill parameters.
Oh, okay, so layer height 0.2. I wouldn't go any thicker than that, just because of the height of the model is drawn to that layer thickness, because it's divisible. I do 5 shells, and I believe I did 30 or 35% infill. I wouldn't go any less than 30, and you can go to the moon with it. And no supports necessary. And another reason why I do the 0.2 millimeter layer height is I actually have threads modeled into the model for the screws. So obviously the finer detail, the better those threads come out. Oh, we're looking good. Almost done.
So I have a question.
Yeah.
What happened to Frankenprinter? Do you have it?
It's at work.
We should talk about Frankenprinter.
Frankenprinter. So that is an Ender 3 that a friend of mine had bought, and he used it in stock form for all of like a week, and then he went off and bought an SKR 1.4 turbo and the screen and new stepper drivers, and he started tinkering with it and getting it running, but he never had it running quite right. And he eventually bought the Tronxy, and then the Tron XY, and pretty much immediately ditched the stock electronics in it and put his electronics from the Ender 3, the SKR board and stuff, in that, and I helped him get that going and got his firmware for that fixed up. So I have the old MKS board and screen from this in the Ender 3, and it runs pretty good. I still have more work to do in the firmware and getting all that fixed up, but it's working. It's a mess though. Talk about a DIY nightmare. There's wires everywhere. There's no case for it all yet. So the screen just kind of like lays on the table, and you're like hoping you don't unplug it or short it out on something when you're pressing things. So
I feel like it'd be fun to have it here for like little updates and like do something small on it every time you do a live stream. So
yeah,
we can see Frankenprinter like from
start to finish.
Piecing pieces together to like pull the switch, you know what I mean?
Right. Well, there we go. I could definitely do that because we don't really use it much. Well, right now it's kind of unusable because it doesn't print good enough for the things that I do at work. So hopefully in the future, the boss man will approve of spending some money on a nice FDM printer for work, but we're not quite there yet. So I generally just bring mine into work.
I was gonna say, why would he? You usually bring 2 to 3 printers to work every week.
Yeah, I tinker on them and mess with the firmware, and they're okay with that. So done. It started out a little close. Actually, can you zoom in on this? You can flip the screen my way so I could see what I'm doing.
No, you don't want to see yourself. You get all weird.
Whatever. I can't see. There we go. Okay. Oh, that looks nice. So this is done, and this is where it started. And if you could tell, you could zoom in way further than that. Come on, get up close in there.
Okay.
Come on, bring it. Come on. I want to show these people. I want to show them some detail.
You're gonna have to move it for me.
Okay. Down. No, like zoom in onto one of the squares.
Oh, you want to like up close to a
Up
square?
close,
okay.
Yeah. Oh, man, we're clipping there a little bit. Yeah, that'll do. See, this thing's got nice parafocal lens on there. It goes in nice and far. So right here, you can tell way too close. Sorry if it's clipping there. You get a little bit of a bright light. And then at the end, after I did my setup, my baby stepping setup, nice and perfect. Yeah. So, and then now that is saved in the Z offset. So each piece, if I did this again, each square would come out perfect. But I don't think we have time for that right now. We've already been going on for at least an hour, I'd say. What time is it?
You got 15 minutes.
I got 15 minutes till 3? Till 4. Ah. Oh, shoot, let's run another one then. Why not? Why not? If I can get this off of here. Peel away.
Drew says, with the mount, there's one screw on the top left upper part of the mount. What is it for / do?
So that is, can you zoom in on it and see it?
Oof.
I mean, you could switch cameras while you do it.
Oh, man.
That way you're not jostling around. I'm here now. All right. One day she'll learn to be a camera operator.
Well, what fun is it if you're not jostling, right?
Right. Let's see. I'll probably have to point you this way, and the screw in question is here. Okay. So what this does is it triggers the end stop. There's a little the inductive end stop. And another nice thing about it too is if you wanted to dial in your offset from the end stop, you could screw it in, unscrew it, and that changes where you could have this by a few millimeters if you need to. So.
And I missed it. Andrea answered that for us.
Oh yeah, because he'd done that too. Now I do have to at some point in time, if hopefully tonight I'll remember. I got to move that screw hold closer to the gantry just a hair. I've had a few people complain that it's not triggering. So because it's not quite centered on the end stop, so I got to move this screw over in the model so it's a little bit more centered. Some people said, oh, it's not actually triggering, so it's like, oh, use like a countersunk screw or something like that that's got a little bit bigger head on it so it triggers. And I've had so much stuff going on between trying to get firmware done and update the website and actual work at my job. I haven't gotten time to do that, so that's coming. I'll fix that. But if you do use it and it just doesn't trigger the end stop, use the countersunk type screw or something with a bigger screw head that has more surface area, then it will hopefully trigger the end stop better. So I forgot I have the belt on the top of this.
And Drew says the bed looks nice, and so don't print it yet is what I'm hearing.
Tell you what, Drew. Remind me, send me another email so I have a reminder when I check my email later tonight. And I will do
says
that.
that on the X2 it works fine. The end stop is an actual switch, at least on theirs.
Interesting. Mine is the little inductive. Now, the Y end stop is like a switch kind of thing. It's weird. I've discovered some things on the X2 compared to the X1 as far as end stop placement goes. Yeah, that's centered up on there. Move this back. All right, we're gonna run that again and see if it's good to go. That's nice. Yeah. And eventually I gotta make a fan shroud that works for the Hemera XS setup because everything's just closer. I mean, you could use this, you just only have one screw hole to use, so it would probably eventually move on you, so I gotta do some finagling in the model. Plus, I would imagine you'd want to use a thicker spacer to move the breakout board out and away just so it's not getting in the way of your fan on that. So.
So it sounds like both Andre, I'm so sorry if I'm mispronouncing it, and Drew say that theirs are both a switch. And Andrea is wondering if the European version may be different.
Maybe.
And that would explain the ordeal they've been having, that they've been experiencing.
Maybe.
Drew says it looks like a black circle button on theirs.
Yeah, it's a black circle button on the Y and stop on mine, but not on the X. On the X, it's the this type, and this is a Panasonic clone. It's a GL-8H sensor. So if you want to get those sensors, because they make good probes for auto leveling probes, I have it on the X2 and on the SP5. You can get them on AliExpress for like $2 a piece, and they work fine. So I have a couple on the way I'm gonna do some testing with, because I might end up selling them with kits with the new boards. It's a possible planned feature. Wow, the desk is really bright over there, isn't it?
Oh. See, that's why I don't let you see yourself.
What? I like to have information on what I'm looking at. Like, I'm looking at this circle piece of glass. Like, I'm talking to Johnny 5 over here. If it was red, it'd be like, what was that, HAL 9000 or whatever? I can't let you do that.
It'd be interesting to see what the difference is, and if it is truly European versus American, and like maybe they send U.S. different printers than Europe.
Maybe.
Or if it has to do with time purchased.
Maybe. Whatever parts they have in stock at the factory at the time. Who knows?
Because I think you bought your X2 pretty early on.
It was relatively early on, yeah. It came out, and I had ordered it just a few months after it came out.
It's less than that.
Was it less than that?
I think it was like right as it dropped. Yeah, I think it was right as it came out. You bought it.
I just didn't get to open it for a while. That's okay. I had it. Okay. So now we're going to verify if, one, the surface map is correct. It's got enough compensation, and two, my nozzle offset for my first layer is good. So.
Drew says his Chimera is an XS. The current mount is for the XS. Is that what I'm hearing?
The mount that is currently on my website is for the regular sized Chimera, but on my things, I do have the XS one on there. So if you just go to my things page, it's there. I haven't put it on my website officially yet. Wow, it's still really close right there. Just because I don't have a fan shroud and stuff like that for it, but I've had a few people asking, hey, I want this for the XS. Okay, but you're going to have to source a fan shroud for now until I can get it correct. Wow, that is super close still. I'm just going to let it ride and see what it does.
Could you put it on your website?
I could, and just leave that information on there like, hey, by the way, I don't have a fan shroud for this yet. That's coming. The fan shrouds are a much more complicated thing to model, and they could take several hours. I'm getting better at it, at that kind of geometry, but it's still difficult. That one's looking much better. And this corner still seems high. There's a blob on there too. So, but I spent like a good month doing nothing but fan shrouds, and I got burned out on it. So, yeah, we're still pretty high. Or pretty low. Yeah, but I'll get back into it. I'm learning. I'm trying to be a little bit more deliberate with my design process and more organized with my design process, using some of the more advanced features in SolidWorks. So if I do have certain things to design, and I do a lot of like the fan shrouds, I have a global variable for specific types of geometry and like distance from the nozzle and angle that the output of the shroud is and stuff like that. Every time I do it, I kind of just eyeball it and guess, because I cannot remember what I did on the last one. And sometimes I just get too lazy to open the model of the last one and get those measurements, so I just kind of wing it, which is bad. That's better. But with the ability to do global variables and different configurations and stuff like that, I could draw one fan shroud and have 100 different configurations of it. It doesn't matter. All in one file. It's just learning and doing it that way.
8 minutes.
8 minutes. Well, this will be done in
7
5.
minutes.
Actually, we can go back and this will tell us exactly when it's going to be done.
Audrey says he found it on things. Thanks.
Perfect. 6 minutes, 7 seconds left.
Wow. It's like you timed it on purpose.
It's like almost. I think this episode will end the Sidewinder struggle. It's the Sidewinder struggle trilogy. I'll like put new thumbnails on YouTube, you know, trilogy part 1. You know?
Sidewinder struggle. The struggling.
The struggling. Ooh, another thing is I don't have the base on this yet, so it's not getting very decent direct cooling air. Another thing, if you do this, yeah, see, did you see it jump right there? It like the movements are getting not so smooth. So
you
I'm
have it on top of foam. I'm sure that doesn't help.
falling.
You have it on top of foam.
Yeah, it's like insulated. So another thing is it kind of jumped around there. The stepper drivers are probably getting kind of toasty right now. And when they do that, I would not depend on perfect looking prints. It will cause all sorts of weirdness. So this will probably turn out okay, but it's not going to be what I believe it should be. Yeah, so it's that side's all of a sudden in the wrong spot as far as height wise. So those the TMC 2100s I have for the Z-axis are getting mighty hot. So you will notice if you print without the cover and without the fan, you'll have artifacting, and then when you put that back on, your prints will like look perfect all of a sudden. So I accidentally discovered that issue when I was initially setting up the BL Touch firmware. Like, why is it so terrible? And then I was messing with it in my garage when it was super cold, and it was perfectly fine. Like, okay, this is weird. And then I go in the house and it's terrible. Like, oh, I bet you my stepper drivers are getting hot. I thought about that.
Christopher says, can you talk about why your extruder board doesn't work with the X1 version 1? Is it a controller board incompatibility or one of the other boards?
So it is how they did the actual signal pathing from the connection on this side through the other boards. Now, if you get a set of the version 4 breakout boards all the way through, it should work because that signal pathing is controlled or set up in the breakout boards. I don't think there's any differences to how it's connected on the actual main board, because all those connections just go to a breakout board on the inside of the machine that push it to the ribbon cable, which puts it through the X-axis breakout board, or and then the extruder breakout board. Don't chew on that wire, Bagheera. Yeah, my stepper drivers are warm. I'm actually, you know what? So I don't barbecue it, I'm just going to stop it because I don't want to burn up my stepper drivers.
Let's see. Christopher says they have the new board on the X-axis, but none of the other boards.
Okay. I'm not sure whether it is different on the breakout board on the inside. I've heard someone say that it's just the X-axis board that makes it different. But I can't verify that, like, for sure. Bagheera, quit it. Sorry about the snapping sounds. My cat sometimes likes to chew on cords. Come here. Oh, okay. And yeah, that'd be bad. So yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and say I think those look terrible. Yeah, my drivers are getting warm. So we'll shut this off. Let it cool off and put the base on it. Actually, can I?
Blasted Labs says, have you seen the Wobble Wings mod for the Z screws? Would be interesting to see if it helps that much.
Wobble Wings. Was that it's like Havort or something like that did one with magnets and ball bearings? It looked pretty cool. I don't think he did it on a Sidewinder though, so I'm not sure. Can you email me a link to that so I could check that out? Or DM me on Instagram or Facebook with it? Because that sounds like it could be a fun project. But while I'm here, I could get the base back on it because it's working. It works. It works. It works. And that's what this whole struggle has been all about. Bam. Oh yeah, these are toasty. I could smell them. Oh, here we go. Yeah, as soon as I flip it over, I could smell heat coming out of the thing. So yeah, they're definitely getting warm. Yeah. And that is not good. It needs cooling air. So cooling air away. Where did this plug into? Fan. Right there. Right. Let's put gear up on the... Are you hanging out by the dunce cap? Oh, that's funny. Bam. Hardwire. Boop. See me rolling. I can just see it now, the little vacuum sucking up a screw or a washer or a spring. Okay, let's get this cover on. So this is an extra long stream. You guys get a bonus half an hour for the finale.
Drew says, hooray, it works.
Right, yeah. This thing hasn't worked in...
Until it decides to not again.
And that'll happen.
Printing is like reading, is like...
Is it not safe for work reading?
No, I think I might, I don't know, maybe I'm not understanding what he's, or maybe it's not, I don't know. It's not computing today.
Just read it out.
3D printing is like reading teen leave sometimes.
I don't know what that is. That's
what I'm saying. Maybe it's just not
some Canadian pop culture thing or something like that?
Oh.
Like, is it like Let's Go to the Mall? Drew, if you get that, you are a hero. Oh man! Oh, what was the? Look up, Drew. You need to look this up. Instead of Gangster's Paradise, I think it's Canadian Paradise. It's a parody of Gangster's Paradise. It's talking about like the cold in Canada. It's funny. I saw it on Instagram. It's pretty funny stuff. So, oh my goodness! Just a couple minutes, and I'll have these in.
It's okay. It's 4.
It's 4? Mm-hmm. Okay, 1 minute, and we'll.
Oh my goodness! Angelo says greetings from Belgium.
Belgium. So we had what? Poland, Belgium, Italy, Canada, Northern Michigan. I mean, man, we're getting worldwide. Nobody from Germany though. Last week we had somebody from Germany, which was awesome.
Yes, there we go. Thank you, Drew. So it says 3D printing is like reading tea leaves sometimes.
Reading tea leaves. What is reading tea leaves?
Like when you make a cup of tea, the leaves that sit at the bottom there after you drink all your tea, and you
like
you never
open
read
up.
Harry Potter. That's your fault, not ours.
I wasn't a Harry Potter person. I wasn't into it.
And Andrea says Robin sparkles. LOL. Drew says How I Met Your Mother. So we got a couple of How I Met Your Mother fans.
All right. Oh man. Oh, what was the one?
And we it's 4:01.
Okay, we gotta get going here. So, all right, that's on. That is on. We'll leave it with the mess here. It's done. We're done. The struggle is over. The trilogy is done. For those of you who've stuck around through all 3 live streams, thank you. It is amazing, and you are patient people to deal with us that long. Hopefully, I've answered your questions throughout this series good enough. If you have any more questions for me that I was not able to answer, you couldn't get to, you could always DM me on Instagram or Facebook, or just email me.
We'll update our email address.
Yeah, we'll update our email address on Facebook if you want to go that route, or just email me from my website, our website. But other than that, thanks again for sticking around.
Any future ideas that you would like to submit for live streams? Please feel free to let us know.
Yes, submit future ideas for live streams. If you haven't yet, please subscribe. You could also follow on Instagram or Facebook at Ethereal Project 3D. What's up?
Yes, Drew, giving you a quick last minute woohoo!
Wow! But this ends it. Thanks for watching, and happy 3D printing.